Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love talking about youth and entrepreneurship. And in this case, those worlds are combined. We're talking about the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center. We're honored to be joined by Dr. Jeremy Qualls, the Executive Director. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on here. I'm so excited to discuss about the EIC and what we do.
Absolutely. So let's start with a little bit of history, some background, and kind of where this idea came about, and then we'll dive into all that you do to power the good. So give us a little bit of history.
Sure, that's a great question. We were opened, the doors opened in this facility 5 years ago. The idea was born out of a trip to the suburbs of Chicago outside Naperville, Illinois. And they had an entrepreneurial program at that time. And Dr. Mike Looney and my predecessor, Dr. Dave Allen, saw this and was like, man, this is a really cool program. How do we bring this back to Williamson County? And the real question was, we're going to do it, but where? And at this point in time, where we're located here at Claude Yates, which is in the Franklin High School Annex, Columbia State was building their new facility here in Franklin. And they were about to leave this. So the question was, what we're going to do with this facility? And that's where they came up with the idea of, let's take that, let's turn it into an incubator, into an entrepreneurial program that's open concept, that looks like the industry standards out in the world. And the rest is history, as they like to say. So we've been open for 5 years. COVID actually, we had to close the doors for about a year. So it's been operable for 4 years. Started with 70 kids, and we have a wait list of over 500 to even get in now.
Yeah, and dive into the grades and a little bit, we'll kind of tease it along the way, but how it works.
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we service all 10 public high schools in Williamson County. And the kids have to apply and interview to get in. We feel that's important because the soft skill piece of just being able to stand in front of somebody and have a conversation and being able to hone those interview skills, that goes along with what we do here at this program. So we go out, and Paula, who is our assistant director, who kind of takes care of day-to-day operations and logistics, she takes her road show, as she likes to say, on the road to each of those schools as a recruitment fair to kind of inform those kids. And then we have an open house for the parents. Once they set foot in this place, once they come in this door, we're batting 1,000. The minute they walk in and they see it doesn't look like a traditional high school. It doesn't look like a traditional classroom. It doesn't operate, feel, smell, taste, anything like a traditional public school. They're usually hook, line, and sinker in. So once they get here, or once they apply, rather, we break up the interviews, and then we have a cut list. We know that we can operate roughly at 300 is our max capacity. So we're floating at 260 right now, 270. We have 4 teachers. They have to have 2 periods a day, a travel period to get here, and then an actual period to learn. And we have a 7 o'clock cohort. That's an hour before school starts. It's one of our first cohorts to fill up. So it's a testament to the power of the program. So once they get here, it's an awesome scenario where we have 4 facilitators that kind of do the teaching, if you will. We don't call it teaching. We don't call them teachers. And they really do a great job. In the first 2 months, what we do is we do some type of skill building, right? We do team building. We don't even really talk about the entrepreneurial side of things yet. We get the kids, because this is really the most diverse group of students in all of Williamson, because you've got 10 different schools coming to one place. So you've got all walks of life, all philosophies, all thoughts, and they're converging. And the beautiful thing about it is the creativity that comes out of it. Those kids are extremely creative. They're disciplined. They're wanting to be here. They're choosing to be here, and they've gone through a process to be here. So we really, really are fortunate that we have some unbelievable talented students here. So once they get here, we spend, a month, 2 months doing team building, and they naturally start to gravitate towards their team that they want to be in. Once they get in those teams, it's off the races then. We're like, hey, you're going to come up with a business idea. You're going to work through it. There's going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth, but you're going to figure it out, and we're going to stand back from you. We're not going to tell you how to do it. You're going to fail, and you're going to fail forward. And once that happens, man, it's really awesome to watch. And then the catalyst moment is monthly. We have our 100+ mentors that are volunteers from our community, that are entrepreneurs, that are business owners, that are just people in the community that work in various businesses, that bring their expertise in. And we do a speed dating exercise where those people talk to our kids, and our kids say, here's where our business idea, here's where we are. And they either say, that's a terrible idea, or that's a good idea. Right. And that's what we encourage and coach our mentors to say. Do not let them waste time. Do not let them go 6 months and it's really not a viable idea. So we say, you bring your network into ours. If a kid needs XYZ, injected molded process to make a prototype, somebody in this group is going to know somebody in that. So then we point them in the right direction. Once that all falls out, all the way through December to January, they pitch for funding, a small bit of seed funding to make prototypes. And then we have our Shark Tank event in January, or in February rather, that's really awesome. And the funding that goes in that is all privately donated funds from businesses and people that want to get involved. And people come in and say, well, how do I financially give? We say, look, it goes into one big bucket that's all given out at the end of the year. And those sharks have a really, really tough job. And then they come back in year 2, they take that money and take all the things they've learned and they try to make the business work.
And I think already for the audience, you're hearing, okay, the mentorship component, obviously the financial contribution for the seed money. There's a lot of easy ways to plug in, which we'll definitely talk about there. Share some stories when you talk about the businesses launched. Talk about some of those stories and kind of what that looks like, the variety of different businesses and success, because everything you're talking about is real world application. It's problem solving, it's learning business, it's cutting their teeth, it's, teamwork. There's so much to this communication, obviously, that I think is great for the students, but it builds that platform for success for them as our future leaders and entrepreneurs. So share some of the success stories.
Sure. One of the things that I love to talk about is our success stories. And a lot of those success stories are failures and how those failures turn those kids around. One of our success stories is a lady named Grace Simmons. She's now at Baylor School of Business. And that's one of the things, the trends that we see here is that we've got an 82 to 84% college going rate in Williamson County Schools. We know that they're going to college. We see that coming. When they come here, we know they're going to college, but what they're going to do starts to change. I'm going to go to this school because they have an unbelievable entrepreneurial program. I'm going to go to this school because they have an unbelievable marketing program. They start to shift because we find their why. That's what we like to say. We're finding their why. Anyway, so Grace got into Baylor School of Business, which is a very low acceptance rate as incoming freshman. She has a business called Kids Create Fun Crate. It is a do-it-yourself craft box. She was a babysitter trying to pay her way for a mission trip to the Amazon. And she said, the kids were bored. I didn't know what to do with them. So I created this little deal where they could do crafts and do this. And she thought this is a viable business. So she created that business here. In her box, she has a quarterly subscription box. She sold $35,000 worth of boxes while she was here. She won her pitch competition at Baylor for additional funding in her first year as a freshman. She is now pitching to the Baylor football team for a deployable box to their kids club. The most interesting thing is behind me today is our Titans Day, which is a whole different story. We can get in that if you want to in a minute. Our partners here, the Tennessee Titans is an official partner. The Pilgrimage Festival is an official partner. And I can talk a little bit more about that. But anyway, through that process, one of our Titans guy hooked her in with the Baylor football team, which now she's got boxes being built. She has a viable business. It's pretty awesome to watch. That's one of those success stories that's just really incredible. One of the ones that were not necessarily as successful, but it was an interesting thing, and I think it goes to show the non-traditional of this program is guys learning how to sew. We had a bunch of athletes and guys up here that knew nothing about sewing. Their business was called Hat Liners. They loved their hats, and they didn't want their hats ruined by sweat rings. So they came up with a recyclable, renewable sourced insert, and they didn't know how to sew it. We have high-end sewing machines upstairs in our fabrication lab. And to watch them on YouTube figure it out and to make prototypes with magnets, Velcro, and different fastening devices was pretty interesting. You know what? They end up getting funded, but they all graduated and they were like, okay, that was enough for us. But the power that they learned off of the process was pretty phenomenal. So I've got 1,000 different stories I could go in that way, but that kind of goes to show you the contrast of even though they were successful and they got funding, they decided to drop it, but then the other one kept working it and still making money today.
Well, and just like you said, in every step of the way, they're learning, they're growing, they're being empowered, and they're finding their why. And so I think all of that is extremely valuable. You can't say the Titans and some of those without, in terms of teasing it, without diving in. So go ahead and dive in and share a little about the partnerships on that side.
So what we started seeing in the first 2 years of this thing was that when you bring in 10 high schools, kids are interacting with kids they've never met before. So you started seeing some side hustle action. Hey, you're not in my group, but I realize you like technology. I'm thinking about building this piece of technology, and I know you got coding skills. So it's like, man, we need to figure out how to harness this power. So what we did was we subscribed to the Google 80-20 model. In Google's ecosystem, 80% of the day they're working on what they're getting paid for, which is Google, their projects. 20% of the day they say, I don't care if you take a nap, go ride a bike, foster side hustles, whatever. There's been some pretty unique products that have come out of that time. So I thought, how do we do that here? So year one, we established 1 day a week to establish side hustles and work those projects. Well, holistically, it sounded good. You've got a few pockets working, you got a few not. I said, okay, we need to do a holistic project that we could work on that has nothing to do with their actual project, but still get unbelievable experience out of it. Marketing, networking, etc. So I had an opportunity to meet with Bert Nihill, the president of the Tennessee Titans. And I know that I had 90 to 120 seconds. I said, I better make it count. I said, Mr. Nihill, I got this idea. I want you to come and see. I knew that his daughter goes to Franklin High. I said, I know that you live close. Please come and see us and talk with us. So he's like, I will. I'll come. And he brought his vice presidents with him. So we sat down for 3 hours. I thought they would never show up. They did. I pitched this idea to them and said, hey, if we bring you in once a week and you give us a project, it needs to be a project where you're not babysitting. It's not a shadowing. It's not a hypothetical. Give us something that you think would be beneficial to your team to help with bandwidth. And I said, trust our kids can do it. I never forget, his vice president of marketing at the time said, you're going to have to make me a believer. There's no way this will work. I said, I promise you will. I said, I bet on these kids. Burke said, let's do it. Burke said, our problem is we don't have a generational fan base. Kids this age aren't coming to games. I want to know why. I said, well, let's go out on the floor. We were having a conversation just like you and I are. Kids are outside. We walk out with the president of Titans. They have no idea who this guy is. We go up on stage. I said, how many of you have been to a Tennessee Titans game? 2 hands go up. Why aren't you going to games? Boring, long, overpriced. One kid stood up and said something that is the most powerful academic thing I've ever heard in the 24 years I've been here. He said, your TikTok sucks. I was like, oh my goodness. First off, that's not professional. Why would you say that? And the person responsible for every piece of content that goes out to the Titans is standing on stage with us, right? So anyway, he said, I want to hear more about that. And the minute he said that, I said, we've got them. We've got them hooked. So the kid said, look, I'm looking through your TikTok and I'm comparing it to comparable markets. And where you guys rank in the bottom third. And the guy's like, I know that. So give me more information. And as they kept going down this rabbit hole, we could see how this plan started formulating of them giving him a project. So what they did says, Burke said, I'm going to come back in 2 weeks and I want to hear your proposals of how we can do better. They came back, kids made a proposals and they said, look, if you come to a Williamson County football game, everybody's in the stands, the students are there, and it's themed and it's unique. Didn't matter if they're 0-10 or 10-0. So the commonality and the theme of the whole process and the pitch process was give us a student section at the Titans game. It was unbelievable received. They liked it so much, they gave us a game. They gave us a Jacksonville Jaguars game. Says, you're responsible for planning it. You're responsible for selling 1,000 tickets. You're responsible for the pregame, postgame, middle of the game, everything. The kids crushed it. They sold the tickets out in 48 hours. It was unbelievable. And they built us, they had to get NFL permission to give us a student section. They built a student section for us. The kids showed up. We had our bands at halftime, our cheerleaders were there. We turned it into a high school experience. Amy Strunk Adams, the owner, came and tailgated with the kids for 45 minutes. And that was 3 years ago. And I've never had to make another call. They've showed up every single time. They're here today. Last year's project was working with the nonprofits and auction. So people say, why does that have to do with entrepreneurship? It has everything to do with entrepreneurship. They have to do content creation. They have to come up with a calendar of action. They have to work with different groups. It has everything to do with it. I'm passionate about it too, if you can't tell.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. And I mean, that's a great illustration too of real world problem solving and working together in collaboration with obviously an NFL team. And so it creates a win-win for everybody. Talk about how the community can get involved and help out. And we talked about obviously mentorship, but dive in deeper on the mentorship and obviously the funds and, that piece of it for the seed money. So how can the community get involved?
Yes, we would love everybody's expertise. The chamber obviously is a great proponent of this place. They're heavily involved. Matt Large and his team at Williamson Inc. come in. They actually have an event here called First Friday, which is coming up soon, which is awesome. So you think about non-traditional. Most people think, well, when you go into a classroom, can I come in and speak to the kids about career? This is totally different. This is fully immersed. You're a part of the process. You're a part of the success of these kids. And what happens is, we set aside the last Thursday of every month. They come in, they do the speed dating thing, and then what happens is they naturally start to navigate towards a group that they feel passionate about. And then next thing you know, after that, after they go through their background checks, we still have safety and security procedures we have to go through being a public school. Once they get through that process, it's an open door. They come, they communicate with the kids. They'll meet with them on randomly, see them come through, and they're going, we have some meeting room space here. And they'll go and meet with those guys and talk about their processes and what they've got working on. But we want any and everybody that wants to give back time to come and get involved and just come and show up. We can give them tours. We can get them, through the background check if they want to do that and be a mentor, and then we don't really ask for financially. That just comes because once they're here, people are like, this is incredible. I wished I'd have had this in high school. I promise you 100% of everybody that walks the door says, I wish I'd have had this in high school. And once they see the facility, they're in. And then that, like I said, that although finances go into one bucket that we give out at the Shark Tank event, when those sharks show up, we say, here's the amount. You can give it out to one group or you can parcel it out to the finalists, whatever you want to do. So there's so many different ways. Once you get here and get involved, there's so many different ways to give back too, right? So we have a lot of events starting to take place here. We have a group called Next Level, which is a headhunting firm in the technology sector that's a partner of us that has a launch event here. It's a Shark Tank event for adults. It's awesome for our kids to see that in action. Williamson Inc. has events here. We've hosted people from Mobile Bay, Alabama, Decaturville, Georgia. I mean, they're coming to see this place and we love it. And the minute they show up, our kids are used to it. We'll be like, hey, Jeremy, go over there and you got 30 seconds, pitch yourself to me, buddy. They boom, boom, boom. And then when they do that, the people are like, that's unbelievable. That's a high school kid. I'm like, absolutely.
Well, and the confidence, the communication, all of that plays in. And like we're talking, I mean, all of these are life skills, career skills, things that will elevate them throughout. And I think it's awesome. So where do we go to carry this conversation forward? So talk about website, social media, contact information. Where do we go to start plugging in?
Sure. Yeah. If you're on Twitter or X, WCSEIC, that'll get you the Twitter following feed there. You can go to wcs.edu. And under programs, you'll find entrepreneurial, and that'll give all our contact information. Or you can go to my LinkedIn, Jeremy Qualls, LinkedIn, and send a message, and we'll get you gladly hooked in at any time you want to do that. We can get you hooked in, and we can give you schedule of events. If you want to just do a tour, we can do any all of the above and get people just to get exposure. We love doing things like this so we can continue that exposure and get new faces involved and keep that door revolving constantly with new people.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Dr. Jeremy Qualls, Executive Director of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center. Thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.